Hey everyone, I'm Shannon Gonter, professional counselor here in Louisville, Kentucky. And what we are doing is we're taking questions asked by you guys, getting them answered by professionals in the field. Today we have Christi Steely. She's a registered dietitian nutritionist. She's a certified fitness instructor and a mom of 3 little ones. She has over a decade of field experience as a complete wellness RDN and a performance coach, and she specializes in intuitive eating, performance psychology, and the science of the human energy. When not teaching at Shred 415 or doing NTI, she's with her kiddos. She really enjoys listening to good podcasts, drinking a large cup of coffee, baking, getting a good sweat in or a long run, or doing some shopping at Trader Joe's, which we all enjoy.
Mhm.
Really grateful to be part of the amazing team of instructors over at Shred 415 Hertz Form. You guys can go in, learn all about the hype of Shred 415 and get a free first class. They're open 7 days a week. All fitness levels are encouraged and welcomed into the family-friendly atmosphere. If you want to redeem your first class, you can go ahead and just email hertzborn@shred415.com and they'll get you all taken care of there. But thank you, Christy, for joining us today. We have a really good question for you. The question that was
Yeah.
coming in from our guest was, how does getting up and moving my body throughout the day support my overall mental well-being?
Oh, it's a good question, Shannon. It's a good question, and it's one I think we've thought about for a long time. I mean, the term "you need to exercise more, you need to move more." It's not old. Like, that recommendation is not old, right? Like, it's been
Sure.
around since way long ago. But I think what we're finding now is that, like, from magazine covers to Instagram feeds to TED Talks, this exercise mental wellness or mental health connection is becoming very hard to ignore. So, because I think, Shannon, what makes this conversation so fun is that what was used, like exercise used to be solely contributed, I think, to weight management. Like,
Yeah.
if you're carrying some extra weight on you, the doctors will tell you, go exercise more, lose some weight. So I think what we're finding is that is merely a positive side effect. More importantly, what we're finding is exercise movement changes your brain. And that's what the modern science is suggesting of why exercise, why move your body. Yeah, weight loss is cool. But the fact it's changing our brains and can change our brains, that's where we need to anchor down into the motivation to actually build that habit of movement in our lives. So I think, though, before I go into how important exercise is and how we do it and what are the recommendations of all those things, and I think it's to start with painting a picture of, like, what is the problem we're trying to solve, right? So one thing we know is that the rates of depression and anxiety are at an all-time high. And you probably know that as a professional counselor. And when I say anxiety and depression, there's a spectrum, right? And I'm sure you could speak to that, but there's a spectrum. And so, but as we know, they're at an all-time high in not just the US, but like worldwide. And so, and a lot of that's due to many aspects of our modern life. We all are carrying more than we can handle right now. Hello, we're in a world pandemic, right? So not only that, but before the pandemic, we were all carrying a lot of load on our plate. And our demand for our time exceeds our capacity to handle it, right? And as we get older, that demand only increases.
Yeah.
And so what we're finding is we're not given more time. There's no pill, there's no solution to getting more time. There is the time that we're given. But here's what I want to encourage us to think about is there's ways that we can actually manage our energy better. One being our physical energy, but it all affects mental, physical, emotional, spiritual, right? It all comes together. And there's ways that we can manage that better to help us kind of show up better and mitigate some of those side effects of anxiety and things like that. So, but what we know is because of the way modern life is, of having too much to do and too little time to do it in, and then anything from political disarrays to our eating habits. A lot of us are too busy to eat. We're too busy to drink water. Social isolation, right? Lack of community right now, and not being able to go out in the ways we used to find that connection and activity in and of itself. The rise of TV and video games and social media and devices is making us more sedentary. So all those things are painting this picture of the problem we have of inactivity and why we're not moving our body. So anyways, knowing all of that, not to mention stress, the way we're working isn't working. Like the way that we are working in today is not working for us. But a lot of us don't know how to get out of it or get around it or work through it, more importantly, building that resilience, right? Because I believe that the way we feel profoundly influences how we perform, like how we show up. And so if we're walking around feeling anxious and stressed and tired and burnt out and fatigued, which many of us are, think about, if we know that energy is contagious for the good or the not so good, how is that spilling over into our family life?
Yeah.
Right? Into our friends, into our community and the places that we work. And so again, I also believe we can't pour from an empty cup. So what can we do to replenish and refill our like emotional, mental, even physical energy bucket so we can show up as our best, right? Because stress isn't going away, let's be honest, right? Stress is not going away, nor is our culture, nor is our world and the way that we live in it. So I have a simple solution. It really is to move your body, move your muscles. But I know for a lot of us, it sounds simple, like, oh yeah, Christy, just get up and go exercise. And it sounds simple, but like the actual thought of like executing that may sound really daunting to some people because they're like, I've not walked ever. I've not ever ran. I've never lifted a weight. Like, how do I even start there?
Yeah.
But I think if you stick with me here, right, we can talk about the why, and then we can talk about simple solutions to start. So let's quickly talk about like how and why is exercise the single most important transformative thing you can do for your brain and body today. Here's why. So when you move, your brain makes new grooves. And here's what I mean by that. So exercise, which really is increasing your heart rate for a sustained amount of time, has immediate effects on your brain, including increased levels of neurotransmitters. So things like dopamine, serotonin, noradrenaline, these feel-good chemicals, right, that we feel. I always think of, I'm going to get silly here for a second, but I think of Legally Blonde. She talks about, exercise, endorphins, and happy people just don't hurt people, I don't think it went exactly like that, but that's kind of what she said. You get an immediate high, right, after you move your body. And so what we're finding is what the research shows, that even small improvements in exercise levels creates an upward positive spiral in our bodies and in our brains. And so what we're finding is that exercise eventually, because it sensitizes our dopamine receptors, which is that kind of reward, right? So even things like when you eat a chocolate chip cookie, you're like, that tastes really good. That's dopamine, right? Firing off in your brain. And I know you know all this, right? But it's the same thing with exercise. You exercise and you feel good. Whoa, we start to then become make that more habitual. Like, I want more of that. So there's that. There's also showing that exercise may alleviate chronic depression by increasing serotonin. And what we're finding though, is that's the very neurotransmitter that antidepressants target. So do we need a pill? I don't know. That's not it for debate here. But what we do know is that exercise can have very similar effects to what antidepressants are doing. So we're seeing that all of these brain stimulating effects of exercise, not to mention exercise impacts two important centers of the brain. And that is our prefrontal cortex, which is right behind our forehead, right? And our hippocampus, which is located really, really deep down in our temporal lobe.
Mm-hmm.
And these two areas of the brain are most susceptible to neurodegenerative diseases and cognitive decline as we age. So when we exercise, we are targeting the very centers of the brain that are most susceptible to disease and decline as we age. Why would we not want to do something that's free and simple, right, to mitigate some of those decline? So what happens is when we exercise, when we move our body, and we get our heart rate up, especially cardiovascularly, getting into that aerobic state, it makes the hippocampus, that little center down in the deep part of your brain that's responsible for retaining new memories and facts and events and emotional regulation, it produces new brain cells, which we call neurogenesis. And so when you produce new brain cells, what do you do with new brain cells, right? You store new information in them.
Mm-hmm.
And so as you create new brain cells, you're making the hippocampus bigger and stronger. And so as you do that, why is this important? Is because evidence is starting to accumulate. I know I'm throwing a lot of brain science at us here, but this is what's so intriguing about it, is that many mental health conditions are actually associated with reduced neurogenesis in the hippocampus. So what we're proposing here is exercise actually increases neurogenesis, creates new brain cells, but many mental health conditions are actually reducing brain cells in our hippocampus. So exercise is the antidote, right, to what's going on here with some of these mental health conditions. So it's just Shane, I just find it intriguing and interesting that exercise really is this antidote to what we're seeing, anxiety, depression, these mental health conditions as they're increasing. Exercise is the antidote to help them. It's just so interesting to me that the way that the body's designed.
Well,
so,
and that we
go
can't
ahead.
separate the mind, body, spirit, whole being, like all of these emotions and sensations and feelings that we have live inside of our body. So when we talk about them, that is helping some of it or releases some of it. But if it's somewhere else in our body, then we've got to move that part of our body to be able to maybe fire it up or give it the attention that it wants or do something.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And we could do a whole nother segment on like gut health, right? How our gut health is like our second brain and how that travels. But I think, we know that everything in our body, everything begins as a thought first, right? A thought, then a feeling, then an action, then a result. So what are we thinking about what we're thinking about? And so if we're, and that is a whole nother podcast, but if we're thinking that exercise is a dread and, I don't want to do it, it takes too much time, we're probably not going to ever do it. But when we start to think and understand, wow, this is something that can help me show up better and can actually maybe increase my lifespan, a better quality of life. Because for me as a mom, exercise has gone from a have to a get to. So when I was young and it was just me, I did it because I felt like I had to maintain a certain caliber of health for myself, right? But as I've grown and now I have responsibilities outside of me, right? There's something bigger than me demanding my attention and my love. It's become a get to, and it's become a critical element to helping me show up as a better mom, a better wife, and just a better human being because I use it as a stress relief. It's and again, knowing the brain science, it's literally helping me strengthen my brain for a long-term reward and protecting me from whatever could be my gene pool. And I will say, my dad is 79. My mom's 74. My dad still exercises an hour every day. He still goes out and walks, 10 miles a week. But I always saw that growing up. That's what he always did. But I see it now at 79. He's still working 50 hours a week as a civil engineer. Brain is sharp as a tack. And I truly believe that his simple habit of daily exercise is the reason he's able to be so sharp at 79. I believe it. So I just, so this isn't just about a short term, how I feel after 2 hours. Absolutely. Like there's those benefits of improving mood, increasing focus for 2 hours after you exercise. Absolutely. So, but it's that it's that and the long-term investment you're making in your health. That's what I find so incredible about something as simple as moving your body.
What are some ways that that we can get up and move our body, and especially kind of in times of 2020 where things are a little bit different, what would you say?
I would say number one, just start. And what I mean by that is you're never too old or too young to start. And I've already mentioned my mom. She was really into exercise when there's 5 of us, and she was really into it and then got out of it. And at 64, she was like, I need to get back into it again. And so she signed up at a gym and, did all those things and started lifting more weights and has, increased her strength. Now, granted, not everyone can, invest in a gym membership. And this is the cool thing. Moving requires you to stand up and go on a walk. It does not have to be expensive. You don't need fancy shoes. You don't need fancy clothes. You just need to be clothed with some shoes and you get up and walk. It can be as simple as that. It can be something simple as, we talk about interval training, getting your heart rate up. You walk fast. You walk faster from, your mailbox to 2 mailboxes down, and you slow it down and you walk fast again, right? So varying things up like that. And never negate the impact of power vacuuming in your house, cleaning. I always say, if you see stairs, take stairs.
Yeah.
So looking at places in your everyday environment that you can move differently, even if a lot of us are at our houses now working and we're doing this stand and we're sitting down. Maybe I should have had to stand up while we did this, but we're sitting down. So in your workplace or in your home workplace, having a hard and fast rule of moving your body every hour to hour and a half by simply standing up and going for a walk or doing 4 air squats or doing a few jumping jacks. No one knows you're doing it, but you know you're doing it because it makes you feel better. So just getting up and moving every hour, maybe having a standing desk if you can get creative and, elevate your laptop so you're standing more often. Having walking meetings. So if you're able to do calls like this, but maybe you walk around your neighborhood with your AirPods in or your little earbuds, you can walk around your neighborhood. So again, you're getting movement. Other things, if you actually want to go to an outdoor workout or YouTube, I mean, the internet is at our disposal and there are so many free options on YouTube or the internet to do virtual workouts. And I know sometimes people like Shane, I don't know if you like the virtual workouts. I do. During quarantine, I began to love them. I wouldn't say that I loved them at first, but during quarantine, it's just all we had. And so I'm just a believer of you make use with what you have. So you can grab a hold of something on YouTube. You can get a personal trainer if that's up for you. You can come to Shred 415. So we're, again, in Hurstbourne. It's a studio, all fitness levels welcome, where we combine treadmill work, like a treadmill drill, which you can walk or run, with floor work, like weights and strength training. So it combines both cardiovascular and strength training, which is a great approach to exercise. So, I mean, there's so many options available. It's really a matter of just choosing to start.
Yeah.
And
so many options to where if it's one day, all I'm doing is getting up every hour and touching my toes and stretching my body or doing some yoga. And the next day I want to run a mile, and the next day I want to go on a walk, and the next day I want to power vacuum. Like, you can pick up and choose whatever you want. It just seems like the important is like, get your body moving, get something happening.
I mean, what it comes down to is changing our habits, right? We have made a habit of sitting and we've made a habit of not moving. And I'm not shaming that or judging that. Trust me. I'm just saying that it's our habit, just like it's a habit of drinking water or watching Netflix or going to work every day. It's a habit, and habits can be changed. That's the beautiful part about being a human being is we have the power of choice and we can change anytime we want. Now, is change easy? No, it's not. It's not. But I always say if it doesn't challenge you, it doesn't change you. So growth comes when we get uncomfortable, right? So if exercise should make us uncomfortable, but we're going to grow from it. And just knowing the benefits, though, of the benefits of our brain and building our resilience and the ability to work through. I always say that being able to handle the physically hard stuff, like doing a run or a walk or lifting weights or 10 burpees, like being able to do those things consistently on a day-to-day basis actually helps us handle the mental, emotional struggles a little easier, because we start to realize like, oh, I can do hard things. Okay. It's not going to feel good, but I can move through it, right? Versus avoiding it or going around it, I can move through it. And here's how. I'm going to breathe through it. I'm going to believe I'm going to take one step at a time. So it's a good life skill. I just firmly believe it's a good life skill to have. And so, some people might say, well, what's the rule of thumb? How much do I need to get? What's the minimum amount of exercise I can get to get all of these brain benefits? And I would say that the research is still inconclusive about the exact kind and the exact minutes that you need to get these effects. But what we do know is that we recommend 3 to 4 days a week for at least 30 minutes of aerobic exercise. So getting your heart rate up. And one thing that, we're finding is that like anything that, you are going after for, it takes, what I'm trying to say is it takes a consistent, investment in moving your body to start to see. So you can't just do it one day, be like, I'm done. I've protected my brain for the rest of my life, right? It is a daily commitment. And I think what the cool part is the effects that we tend to notice after 4 weeks of moving our body, which incidentally is how long it takes in neurogenesis, building new brain cells. but that we should continue the exercise 10 to 12 weeks, right? Make it a consistent habit so that we start to see the greatest protective effect on our brain long term. Yeah. So, I mean, my big thing is like bringing exercise, bringing movement into your life will not only give you a happier, more productive life today, but protect your brain from these incurable diseases. And in this way, change the trajectory of your life and positively impact the people around you, you know, for the time to come. So,
And I like that you said earlier, it doesn't have an age. Do it with your kids, do it with your parents, of course, in these times and socially distant, safe ways, but
sure.
Start. Is there anything else you want to leave our audience with today before kind of wrapping up? You've given us so much good information already.
Well, that's the thing is there's a lot of information, and I want to simplify it is even though we've talked about all this brain stuff, and I want to simplify it to say, just start and you can. And finding gratitude in the fact that you can move your body in the way that feels good to you and find someone to do it with, right? Community and connection. We're wired for that, for connection, and we're made for that. So find someone to do it with, even if it's your daughter, your son, a granddaughter, get them out and walk, ride their bike, walk the dog. But just circling back even to Shred 415, which is where I teach classes, if you are interested in finding community there in a more formal setting for exercise, again, all bodies are welcome. It's family friendly, all fitness levels. You kind of begin where you're at. You can email hersporn@shred415.com and you can redeem your first free class. And then you can learn more when you come. So, yeah.
And Shred is great. When I'm in the mood to like run and kick it kicks my ass the entire time. And when I'm in the mood to like walk on the tread and do my thing, it still kicks my ass. So.
Yeah, it totally does. You're going to sweat regardless. And I always say like a good sweat is like the best therapy. It's so cathartic. So again, I say just start, keep it simple. Don't overcomplicate it. And just, I'm going to be corny like Nike and just say, just do it because it's really good for you. It's really freaking good for you.
Oh, I love it. Thank you so much to bringing all this body knowledge to the talk. We know, of course, we got to have our physical bodies in order to keep our mental well-being
we do
safe and happy. And
we do.
Lots of stuff going on. So we need to make sure we're taking care of at least certain parts of us.
Absolutely.
Each day. And again, like you said, if you want to reach out to Shred, email them at hertzporn@shred415.com. Thank you so much, Christy. And
you're welcome.
Audience, if you guys have questions for us, just DM us. And again, we'll get them answered by a professional in the field. But until next time, enjoy.
Thank you. Have a good one.